JVR, do you know how many points he's paced for right now? Did you look this up too? Because this blew my
I,
mind. Couldn't believe it.
I couldn't tell you what. I'm not. I didn't go to school for math, Ty, so I couldn't even tell you what the projected pace total is.
59 points.
It's pretty good.
59.
It's
That's
pretty good.
crazy. That'd be the third highest of his career. That's absolutely bonkers to think about that. They may have gotten a guy who could put up 60 points
Yeah,
for $1
no.
million.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 191, presented by CLNS Media and sponsored by our good friends over at FanDuel and Factomeals. My name is Conor Ryan, and once again, we are joined by 98.5 The Sports Hub's Ty Anderson. Ty, how's 2024 treating you so far?
We're off to a good start here, so that's good. So still a long way to go. We take it one day at a time. Commit to the process, whatever other cliche you need. But it was nice. It was nice to kind of just, I remember it's funny. My time hop was telling me that last year we were running around Fenway Park for the Winter Classic, which great game, but a reminder that I would rather do anything but have to work at Fenway Park on anything resembling a full-time basis. Because, oh my God, is that park an absolute nightmare to travel through, to commute through as a writer trying to get to the locker room or clubhouse, whatever, from the press box. So happy that was one and done, I got to say.
Yeah, they say, Ty, that it's all about the charm of Fenway, right? But I don't get the charm of avoiding, cinder blocks falling on you. It shouldn't be an Acme cartoon when you're at your place of work, in my humble opinion. I don't know about you, but it's just not worth it if you ask me.
Do you remember when we were waiting outside to get into the press box or get into the clubhouse? We were waiting outside just a bathroom. We're waiting outside of a bathroom. Everyone's trying to get by and piss, and we're just like, we're just trying to talk Nick Foligno, I guess. But yeah, no, go around me, dude. Go around me. It's such a weird setup.
I mean, we're unveiling state secrets here by saying that yes, the Red Sox clubhouse actually is a bathroom. That they don't tell you that stuff. It's kind of like what's that shit in Harry Potter? Platform 9 3/4. You go past the third urinal, you kick the door in, and you just the floor gives way, and you find yourself in the Red Sox clubhouse. It's really convoluted. It's not easy for media. If you're a new player there, you gotta have a traveling secretary explain it to you. It's not fucking worth it.
No, and the pathway you described is the alternate ending to the town. That's what happens in the town. They just fall through the bathroom.
I'm surprised that Ben Affleck only put that in the director's cut. Why they didn't put it's all of a sudden they're in the middle of Fenway in the concourse, and all of a sudden they're at the old Shaw's right on Boylston Street right there. They were stopping by John Hamm was stopping by Tasty Burger, just happened to find a couple of bank robbers. It's funny they just kind of overlook that.
Dude, I gotta admit, I like that movie was on TV the other day, and I watched it. I kind of miss when Fenway was kind of grimy like that. The backside of Fenway. I kind of miss when it was a bit grimy. Now it's a bit too posh for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, back in the day, I mean, even my freshman year at school, it was still relatively. It was transitioning. You could tell that there was definitely a lot of high rises being built, a lot of fancy stuff there. The baseball tavern was on its last legs. There was condos called the Juggernaut being built, right? They always have the most unnecessarily aggressive names. It's like IPAs. You pick the most aggressive thing to name your residence. But I remember, the Shaw's right there. You had Baseball Tavern. You had just it was but it was also kind of quiet. It's not around TD Garden where that was kind of grimy, but also a lot of places there kind of straight up sucked. There was a lot of hidden gems around Fenway. Now, not so much.
It's a bummer, but it's coming. It's happening everywhere we look. So whatever.
I know the Santander Bank is coming for you if you haven't one in your neighborhood yet. So just wait. So anyway, we digress. Ty, let's talk about some Bruins. Bruins beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 4-1 on Tuesday in a game where if you are looking at the Bruins past offseason and their strategy of pretty much being the Oakland Bees with their Moneyball approach, a lot of short-term deals, low money. Worked out pretty good yesterday. You have your 4 goal scorers had a combined cap hit of $5.125 million, of which most of that is Frederick, 2.3. Right. So Shattenkirk, JVR, and Mine's blanking. Who's
Danton
the
Heinen.
Dan? Of course, no disregard to disrespect the Dan Heinen stands, but combined cap hit of what 2.12 million or 2.78, I think is what
Yes.
it was. So great day for people who maybe were hoping this was going to be the case for the Bruins in terms of finding a lot of value in free agency. What has kind of stood out to you about these guys that, again, were kind of bargain bin signings, you're more of a short-term fix, but what's kind of stood out to you about how the Bruins have approached that offseason and how it's paying out so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, right now they picked correctly. Like it can go one of two ways. When you sign these kind of guys off the scrap heap or the bargain signings, like they can either work out or they get waived in training camp and you never see them again. They're in the AHL, taking up a roster spot for a younger player. And I think that, with guys like Heinen and JVR, like the Bruins were correct in their analysis that they were more unlucky than straight up bad players a year ago. I think JVR is a great example of that. Is like, yeah, like, kind of surprises me, right? That he gets a goal last night. It's his second goal in the last 18 games, yet he still is off to the best, the fastest 25 points in a Bruins uniform for a first year Bruin since Mark Savard in 2006, 2007. Like that's impressive to me that even with his goal scoring droughts, he's found a way to be a very effective player for your team. I think the passing game has been underrated, but I think ultimately, with all three of those guys, great job by their scouting departments to say, no, if you in their analytics department, I think as well, you look at the numbers, you look at beyond the numbers, like you see a guy here you see guys here who can have some more luck. If you slot them in the right opportunity or the right situation, like their numbers are going to go up. And sure enough, we've seen that. And I think it's really impressive, but I think especially with JVR, because, if you just look at the numbers last year, I think it was 28 points, I want to say. Not a lot of success on the power play. Like you had enough there to go, he might be cooked. And then you look at the numbers beyond the raw totals and you're like, wait a minute, they might have something here. So kudos to them for finding that out.
Yeah, no, I think definitely like JVR is probably the best value add they've found out of a group of a lot of, I think, A plus signings so far in terms of production weight against the cost. Because I think also with JVR, I think when the Bruins signed him and we kind of talked about it initially, it's like, all right, if Nick Ritchie, who is busy like throwing haymakers in Finland right now, can score 15 goals, get a net front power play role and produce there. A guy like JVR, who maybe is at the end of his career, but has the frame, has the passing ability at that net front area. Put him in that same spot with guys like Marchand and Pasternak. He's going to produce, but I think what's kind of surprised me is that even at 5-on-5 play, he's been really, really productive. I was looking up the stat. I believe Scott McLaughlin's the first one who kind of brought it up, but JVR has 10 primary assists at 5-on-5 play, which I think only 18 guys in the entire NHL have that many primary setups. At 5-on-5 play. I think only two below Connor McDavid. Pretty good. Not saying that the same guy, but I think that's probably been the most surprising. If you told me going into the year that JVR put him on the power play, you can get 12 goals, 8 of them on the power play, be productive as you're trying to, make a Tyler Bertuzzi in the aggregate with what you're signing and what these different skill sets are. I think his 5-on-5 play, especially passing wise, has been huge for the team, especially further down the lineup.
Yeah, and going one step beyond that here, like, I just looked this up real quick. You look at guys that are making $1 million or less. JVR is number one with 25 points. Right behind him is Stefan Noesen from the Hurricanes, Eric Gustafsson from the Rangers, Jonathan Drouin. Like these are all kind of project types that teams took flyers on. And I think yours has probably been the best gamble so far, right? Like, okay, like let's say the Bruins had their choice. Let's just say in a perfect world, right? The Bruins could have had JVR or Jimmy Vesey. Jimmy Vesey has, I think, 11 points in 30 something games. Like you rolled the dice correctly, right? You rolled the dice correctly on JVR. You rolled the dice correctly going with Heinen over Alex Chiasson. Like when you have the roster construct they have, and maybe more so the cap construct they have, like you can't afford to miss. And I think that's what's really been impressive is that there hasn't been one of these signings that they made that you look at and go, that's a miss. And let me rephrase that real quickly. There's not a miss that they could have predicted because Lucic is an obvious miss, but there's no way of knowing that, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's what's been really impressive because typically when these teams have to do cheap contracts, veteran contracts, like there's always a guy that kind of sucks. Like there's always one guy who's just totally cashed and you're like, this is a bad fit. They haven't had that so far. I think that's very impressive. And JVR, do you know how many points he's paced for right now? Did you look this up too? Like, cause this blew my mind. Couldn't believe it.
I couldn't tell you what. I didn't go to school for math, Ty, so I couldn't even tell you what the projected pace total is.
59 points.
It's pretty
59.
good.
That's crazy. That'd be the third highest of his career. Like that's absolutely bonkers to think about that. They may have gotten a guy who could put up 60 points for $1 million.
Yeah, and also like the good part of this as well is that not only you hitting a home run right now, but also you don't have, if you're a Bruins fan, I think you can relish them signing these guys, getting his value right now, but also it's not with the other shooter drop, right, of signing these guys long-term. Like the Bruins both are maximizing the value of a guy right now, but if they want to look at re-signing a guy, they can. But if you want to move on when you have a lot more cap space this upcoming summer, I think they've got 26 million, I believe, is the current pace right now. That's pretty good in terms of, what their overall approach was. That, again, I think when you looked at the fact that I think they only had like 13.4 million in cap space this summer to sign 7 forwards, you had to re-up your goalie. You had to, figure out what you want to do with Orlov. You had to deal with the likely fact that you were losing Bergeron and Krejci. That's a daunting offseason with that much money available, right? And again, I think as soon as we saw them sign all these guys to 1 year, 1 million, you had Heinen waiting in pretty much purgatory in September and early October for him to get a deal. Wasn't the most, streamlined approach, but you have to kind of make do with the hand that you're dealt, one that you kind of made for yourself by, continuing to put out these win now moves last season. And so far, you put yourself in a position where you're competitive this year. You've got guys that are probably overachieving, especially in terms of what their value is. And again, you have the option to kind of hit the reset button again, whether it's you want to sign a guy, if JVR wants to hang on for another year or two and stick in this spot and produce, you could do that. You can move on to maybe a guy that's younger. You have that leeway to do it. So if you're the Bruins, you're kind of, reaping all the benefits of how you've approached this offseason so far.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some guys of this grouping that I'm interested in keeping around. It's funny. I don't know if JVR is one of them. As good as he's been, I don't know if that's a guy that I want to commit to beyond this season because the luck could turn the other way next year, And I think of that grouping, I think Heinen's the guy that I'm probably most interested in keeping around. Like if the price is right, if you can give him a slight raise to 1.1 million or 1 million, that's a Swiss Army knife. He's played everywhere in your lineup this year. Like the only spots he hasn't played, I'm pretty sure, are Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak, which like you're not going to bump those guys, so that makes sense. Like and I think that's probably where I'm at with it right now. Of the guys that they brought in, like who I'd want to keep around, but JVR, if he continues to produce and look this good, then he's going to make it interesting. But it's also one of those things where like, is he playing for his next multi-year deal? Because if it's a multi-year deal, I don't know if I want the Bruins to be that team. Like, because then you're talking what 35, 36, or at 37 at the end of it. That is, we've been here before with hard-nosed, net front, big body, hard mile guys, and that never tends to age just as well as you want. But right now, I mean, it's been a masterful plan for the Bruins, and we've talked about this before, but the Taylor Hall trade was all they needed. And I'm not going to lie. I thought they were going to need to make 2 or 3 trades. I thought they were going to have to trade off or buy out a Forbort or a Grzelcyk, maybe make a hard call on Frederick if they didn't want to pay him, but it's been an absolute win for them so far. And, I think that especially coming out of the break here and the way they've managed them too, I think is really impressive. Like giving Shattenkirk and JVR random nights off to kind of get their legs back. I think it's paid off every time they've done it.
Yeah, we've come a long way, Ty, from the offseason discourse of trading Olmark to keep Tyler Bertuzzi, who last I checked has 1 more even strength point than Dan Heinen. But I digress. He was below it until they played the Kings late last night. And I think he had 2 5-on-5 assists. But
he did.
So far though, deal's looking pretty good for the Bruins. But before we look more into Tuesday's win over Columbus, let's take a quick break here. Listen to our good friends over at FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use and you can bet on everything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And frankly, that's the best part about FanDuel, that you can bet on anything. You want to bet on how many wins the Patriots are going to have this year? Be my guest. Maybe how many shutouts Jeremy Swayman's going to have this season? Go for it. You can really do it all. So bet now on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Once again, shout out to our good friends over at FanDuel. All right, Ty, I think you look at this stretch the Bruins are on now. As of recording, they've won 4 straight games coming out of the holiday break. 18 goals during that stretch. Pretty good for a team that scoring has been probably an issue throughout this season. And it should not really come as much of a surprise to Bruins fans, I think, that this kind of surge in scoring is coming at the same time. You have guys like Jake DeBrusk heating up. Jake DeBrusk has 6 points in his last 4 games. Trent Frederick, especially as of late, has really been coming on now. 6 points in his last 5 games, on pace for career highs for him. And I think it just, again, we've talked about this time and time again, but you've got the guys like the Pasternaks and the Marchands and, Coyle and Zaka have, I think, exceeded expectations. But when you've got these other key cogs further down the lineup or in critical spots delivering, and again, it's not saying you need these guys scoring hat tricks, but when they can steadily, string together a primary helper in a game or a goal here and there, it just makes the overall operation run so much smoother for this team that now seems to be clicking a lot more, especially offensively as of late.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, it's, to your point, it's no coincidence that they're winning games now that Trent Frederick and Jake DeBrusk are scoring. And what I think is really impressive, man, is that you go back, let's go back to coming out of the break, right? They've played 4 games. You know that 16 players have at least 1 point. The only 5 guys that don't have points since coming back from break: Georgi Merkulov, Patrick Brown, Johnny Beecher, Jacob Lauko, Oscar Steen. So basically, your freshly recalled AHL player and your 4th line combinations. Those are the only guys that haven't found, a point in these 4 games. So, and I think that really comes back to DeBrusk and Frederick. And listen, you have 17 guys involved, 16 guys involved. So you can't put it on just 2 guys, but we have the data now. When those guys score or produce, the Bruins tend to win. That tends to let everyone else kind of fall in line and play their game without pressing, without having to hunt for goals to a detrimental point. And I think that really with Frederick and DeBrusk, it's about time in certain respects. I think Frederick's had a solid year, but there's been stretches where I say he can be better because I saw it last year, right? And I think you're seeing it right now. When Frederick's on his game, I think that what's the number one thing you notice? For me, it's the quick release. He is shooting right away. And that's how you're seeing him score some goals right now. He is not delaying. He is scoring right away. And DeBrusk, we've talked about DeBrusk for so long now, but he just looks like a player who's playing with, without 25 pounds added on his back right now.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think with DeBrusk, we talked all about, how important he is and the fact that even though he's rounded out his game, he needs to produce, and you're seeing that. And I think you're seeing especially the confidence building. I know you've talked about this before about how much it can help just getting a few days away from the rink, completely away, not day off watching the game from the 9th floor.
Right. No practice, no video sessions, nothing.
Yep. No, at home on the couch, watching college football, watching Elf, watching Harry Potter. That's what Jake DeBrusk said he did over the holiday break they had. And how much I think that can really help out a player and just allowing them to have a complete reset. And I think you're seeing DeBrusk play with a lot of confidence right now, and it's showing out there. But I think Frederick in particular is the guy that I've always been kind of fascinated of just what his role is and what his kind of ceiling is. Because I feel like every year I'm always like, all right, is this a I think we've gone from, is he a fourth line guy? No, he's a third line guy. But last year was like, all right, he broke through, had a really strong year. But is that his shooting percentage? Was it like a unsustainable stretch here? I think now you should kind of see more and more, kind of like how I think we can view DeBrusk now is he's going to be up and down as a streaky scorer, but you can pencil him in for, playing 60 minutes a night, hopefully around 20-ish goals a year. Like, is Frederic getting to the point where he's morphing into that middle six kind of player that you can pencil in each year for maybe 17 to 20 goals, 40-ish points? It seems like he's taking that next step, especially this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he can be Nick Paul, you'll take it.
Yeah.
Like if he can be that kind of player, play some center, play some wing, but score 20 goals, like yeah, you want that. Like it's funny. I think that if Trent Frederic were on the Capitals or we're on the Lightning or the Panthers or any number one of these teams that the Bruins have had problems with historically, we'd be saying, "Damn, wish they had him on their team." You know what I mean? Like
Miles. The Miles Wood is exactly what it would be, right? That was a guy
exactly
over.
Oh my God, they always wanted him, and then he got a crazy contract. Wasn't his contract like 8 years? Isn't something
crazy where it was like nowhere close to what the Bruins were going to even endorse it, and then he's pretty banged up, right? Which again, you look how he plays.
Yeah, exactly. So internally, the Bruins, when they moved Frederic from center to wing, internally their hope was that he could be Tom Wilson light. I don't think he has the speed to have the devastating physical impact that Tom Wilson can have, which is both a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like he stays out of trouble that way, but also he doesn't have that intimidation factor that Wilson had in his prime. But scoring wise, ability to create space for his line mates wise, I think he has been Tom Wilson light. Like he's not as good as Tom Wilson, but like he's operated with some pretty good moves here and some pretty good numbers here these last year and a half now, to the point where I got to say, like, he's a middle 20 goal scorer, and like at 2.3 million, like that, like he's not without flaws, but for 2.3 million and for what you're getting, I think that's a very, this is a very promising development. He took a while to develop, like a long time, 2016. Oh my God. But he's here now, and I think he makes you a better team. Like he is one of these guys. I think Geeky's another one too. Like where when they're on their game, they just make their line mates better. You can't explain it always, but when they are on their game, everyone around them has a better game. You saw that in Columbus. Like everyone around Frederic had a good game on Tuesday night. So I think it's very. That's kind of what he is as a player. He makes others around him better because they have more space to operate.
Absolutely, yeah. Kudos to the Bruins for sticking with him when I think a lot of people were kind of ready to jettison him as a prospect. Even, I mean, I had doubts as to how viable of an NHL player he was going to be. So, looked really good at third line center on Tuesday in Columbus. Curious to see if maybe Montgomery sticks with that JVR Frederic Heinen line for a game or two, but also have to factor in Matt Poitras coming back from World Juniors. But before we talk about Matt Poitras and the lineup, let's take another quick little break and hear from another Factor Meals.
This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. Too busy with holiday plans to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you'll need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you need to do is heat and enjoy. This November, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. So head to factormeals.com/poke50 and use code POKE50, that's POKE 50, to get 50% off. That's code POKE50 at factormeals.com/poke50 to get 50% off.
Once again, shout out to our good friends over at Factor Meals. All right, Ty. Matt Poitras went to World Juniors, Team Canada. It was a decision that I think had some pros and cons in terms of what he was going to benefit from it. But from what Don Sweeney said a few weeks ago, as a young player, 19, had a bit of a wall here in the NHL. Going over there, representing your country, being one of the premier players, and hopefully putting together a good tournament was maybe what he needed to kind of get that reset and get back out there. He's on his way back now. I think he's already back in Boston. I don't think Montgomery has said quite yet as to when he'll be back in the lineup, but ends his tournament run in the quarterfinals, kind of loses in crushing fashion to Czechia. 4 points for Poitras in 5 games. Do you think it was the right call to send him over there based on, maybe his post-tournament comments? Of course, devastated, as are all players, I think, when they get bounced early from World Juniors. But do you think it was the right call to send him over to Sweden for this 2-week stretch?
I think so. Because you wanted him playing. You wanted him playing all situations, all minutes. He's obviously one of Team Canada's best options for the World Juniors. And I think that it allowed the Bruins to give him an in-season reset. It also allowed them to take a look at some other guys that they were curious about that they maybe couldn't have otherwise done without, maybe waiving someone they didn't want to waive, be it an Oscar Steen or, I have to go in and see, when the last time he got waived was. But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it gave them a chance to get a look at some other guys without having to outright punish or deal with the backlash of sitting Matthew Poitras. So, I think it was the right move. I don't think that he's played too many minutes, I think, in Boston to worry about him completely burning out as a result of this. But I if I'm the Bruins, I might create an injury here and say, oh, Poitras going to be out for the week just to get him his legs back down and get him centered. I mean, it's a whirlwind, right? Like, you go from Boston to Sweden, back to Boston, like, I don't want him playing. Like, I don't want to see him before the road trip. I don't think, like let him get his feet wet. Let him get himself centered, get some rest, and then see what you got with Merkulov still, and go from there. But I don't hate it, truthfully. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think my initial concern way back when was the workload, but obviously playing 5 games over there, again, the travel and all that stuff, like, it was very much a whirlwind. Like, he got loaned to Team Canada, got on a flight that night, was practicing, I think, the next morning in Sweden. So you have that. But in terms of the overall workload over there, I really don't have much of a problem with it. And I think initially when you hear like those like quotes, both during the tournament, because I think he spoke to, I think it was Mark Masters at TSN during the tournament, was like, yeah, like the pace here still I'm adjusting to, like, I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself as, I've played over 20, almost 30 games in the NHL. I'm supposed to be kind of the main line driver here with Celebrini. He hasn't really been there. I heard that and I was like, oh, like, still 19, man. Like, you can still kind of, you're still part of, a greater Team Canada out there, that you shouldn't put all that pressure on you. And then obviously after the loss, he was taking it pretty hard. As expected, he's on the ice for that last goal, even though it was kind of a fluke deflection goal by the Czech team. But I think when you look at his response from it, the one thing that stood out to me throughout his short tenure here, Poitras, is bouncing back, using a lot of motivation. And so for him, it's like, all right, maybe it's also good to come back pretty pissed, being like, came up short there, still got a job to do in the NHL. I'm still, riding this wave of probably accelerating my timeline this year with the Bruins. So if he comes back motivated there, and also I think maybe helps that the Bruins are doing pretty well without him right now. That's not to say that he was, a reason why, but you've got all these other lines that are playing at a high level right now. Like, it's not like he's going to fall right back in. Here's the 3C. It's, how it was before. It's like, all right, like, we've got a pretty good group right now with like JVR, Frederick, Heinen. Let's see where you exactly fit into the lineup, and let's have you fight for these minutes back. Like, I think that he's coming back to some good adversity and a lot of motivation, that's been channeled internally. And I think that can really help a guy that I think, as we've seen time and time again this year, has done really good with bouncing back from these kind of stretches where he's been challenged, which has happened pretty much every single game as you're a 19-year-old guy in the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he can't handle this, well, then he's not ready for the show this year. Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like, that might be a blunt way of looking at it, but this team has playoff aspirations. They don't want to be a one and done. And if a 5-game run in Sweden derails your entire campaign, well, then you weren't built for it anyways. And
Yep.
that's not to say that his future isn't bright or anything like that. It's just like this can't be the reason why his season gets undone. And I don't think it will be. I think you highlighted it right there. Like his mental toughness has been there. It's been there in game. It's been there game to game. And so I think that I want to see him back, but I do want to see them continue to hyper manage him. I know fans hate hearing that, but like I'd rather him be effective in April and May at the expense of January and February. If I can help it, that's what I'd like to see. You rest him now and in December, because it's going to pay off long term. And I think that's the long view you have to take, because especially with the situation, like he can't go to Providence for a week. Like it's here or it's the OHL. And it's like, all right, well then if it's here, hyper manage the hell out of him. Invent injuries. Like it's fine. Invent little IR stints where he's on IR for 3 games and you're allowed to bring up, whoever, because you have to do it. Like, I don't hate the idea. And I think Bruins fans should get on board with it, because you want him to be a legitimate factor in the playoffs, because you've seen what a factor he can be when he's on his game. He's got his legs moving. So anything to preserve that is what I'm all about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good problem to have for the Bruins in terms of getting him back into the lineup and seeing how he deals with this latest bit of adversity. It can only help the team if he's back in the lineup, giving his playmaking and his poise. So.
Where do you put him? That's my question. Where do you put him right now?
That is, it's interesting. Would you put him on the wing, or do you want to just keep him at center?
I want to keep him at center. I think he's too skinny for wing right now.
That's why I'm curious as whether you either try bumping him up the lineup a little bit more, because it's almost like, where exactly does he fit? Because I want to keep, for right now, I've been a big proponent of like Coyle and Frederick together, but so far that line's been pretty solid, at least out of the gate. So, I really don't know where exactly you put him in, because I do ideally, I think, want to keep him down the middle and not kind of tweak that too much. Like Frederick was a player that had a long development timeline, so you don't really know what exactly he's going to be. Poitras has all the makings of a potential top 6 centerman. I don't think you want to mess up that formula even at this stage of his career, but where exactly he fits, and I don't want to put him on the 4th line. It was kind of like Merkulov on the 4th line in Columbus, where I'm like, I don't know if that really exactly best fits where his skill set is or what kind of player you're trying to mold him into, but you're shifting around some pretty solid lines, at least how they've played the last 4 games.
Yeah, and I listen, they moved Zacha to wing. Why not give me Zacha, Poitras, Pastrnak? Just give it a game. Fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was kind of annoyed that the Bruins play like this Merkulov run here. The Bruins play 3 games. They play the Devils, they play the Red Wings, and they play the Blue Jackets. Devils are a good team. They're having a kind of a rough year, but they're a good team. Red Wings are free falling. The Blue Jackets stink. How is it that Merkulov plays the most time on ice against the good team, and the other 2 teams he barely plays? Like, I thought this was a chance to really give him a legit run with some high-end talent and see what can happen, and they didn't do it. I get it. He's still young. He's still got to develop, blah, blah, blah. It felt like this was a house money kind of run, and you should have treated it like that. And it's a little bit of a bummer that now that Poitras's back, or he's going to be back, we're probably going to see Merkulov go back down to Providence. And it's like, all right, well, did we really find out anything about him during this 3-game run, or was he just kind of there for the experience? Which there's value in that. I'm not going to lie, but it's a bit like buying a sports car and then, riding it around the block once and parking it back in the garage. It's like, wait a minute. Come on, go on the highway. I want to see how fast this baby goes. Come on.
Exactly. No, even with like Merkulov now, it's all right. If you go back down to Providence, you were on a scorching stretch down there, playing great. Keep that up. I know you only played like 11 minutes total in like Columbus, but like, yeah, keep that rolling. When again, we'd like to think that these young guys, once they've got like a good footing in the AHL, they can just pick it right back up and still be a point per game kind of guy. Only human. You go back to you make to the NHL, play kind of sparingly in a role there, and go back down to Providence where you're catching buses to Utica and Pennsylvania and all these things, Cleveland. It is tough to, I think, kind of get right back to that rhythm. I think you're so channeled towards getting to the NHL to then go back to it. We'll see how he responds to that. So definitely something worth keeping tabs on, because I don't think we've even gotten a full preview yet of Merkulov and what he can offer his team, especially down the road. But Ty, as we end this episode, is there anything, where exactly can we read hear, listen to all your stuff?
Nickelodeon gamesandsports.com. No,
Oh, nice.
I am with
Yeah,
I am with
sure.
98.5thesportshub.com. You can find me there. You can find me on X, Twitter, Twix, @_Ty Anderson. I'm also outside TD Garden, willing to do feats of strength for $5. So if you see me out there and you want me to lift a heavy thing, bring it. And if I lift it, I get $5. They still got to pay me that other $1 million. So that's where I'll be. How about yourself?
I was gonna say, have you told people yet that you can lift the Bobby Orr statue, or was I not supposed to say that on the podcast?
We keep it a little secret because the Bruins have asked me to stop doing it many a time, and I say no.
You put it in
strong.
You put it in the same spot. Like I don't think people would notice. It's not like you
always
just
put it down.
You're not like you're bringing it into like the little Shaw's right there or anything like that. You're not being an animal. You're putting it back where it was.
Dude, that Shaw's tried scanning the drink that I brought, and I was like, no, I brought that. And they didn't believe me. I'm like, no, I didn't. You don't even sell this. I brought this in. You don't sell this. It was very bizarre. It was a very uncomfortable experience for me.
That's unfortunate. You know who would not stand for that? Would be the old McDonald's inside the garden. I think you could work behind. You could just go back and grab whatever you wanted, and it'd be fine. They give you a high five.
Dude, did you see the sign?
I've heard whispers, Ty.
Yeah, there's a sign. The old pro shop at the on the basement floor of TD Garden, North Station. It's gonna be a McDonald's. They put the sign up saying "coming soon" with the big old arches. I am gonna gain 38 pounds next year. It's gonna be a nightmare.
2024 is looking up, Ty. Yeah, I have to have a feeling. I think it's going to be up. Hopefully by the playoff run. You need something else down there. Not to besmirch. You know, we got Sully's. We got a few things over at the Hub Hall and things. But you know what? Sometimes you just need quick medium fry, a little bit of carb up for a good playoff game. So hopefully that's on the horizon. But you can find my stuff. Not to go back to the main subject here. Find my stuff over at Boston.com. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever the hell it is, at Conor Ryan _93. That is our latest episode of Poke the Bear. Once again, I am Conor Ryan. That's Ty Anderson. You guys have a great rest of your week.